Thanks everybody for joining us today. We're super excited to introduce some new software to you that we'll be launching next week. So we'll jump into it. We've got a lot to cover. So for those who don't know me, my name is Dennis Kelly. I'm the CEO of Postalytics, and I'm being joined here on the presentation today by Don Barber, who is our lead engineer on the new Flows project. Don, please introduce yourself.
Again, my name's Don Barber. I've been the lead engineer on this project, and I've been in the kitchen cooking this up for a while now, and I'm excited to share it with you folks.
Awesome. And we also have Chaz Rubino with us today. He's manning the Q&A tool for Zoom. So as folks have questions along the way, please pop into the Q&A tool and we will get to the questions as much as we can in the time we have. And if we can't get to all of them, we'll come back to you with more answers. So from an agenda standpoint, as everybody's aware, we are super excited to review what's new with our Flows feature, our brand new tool that we're about to launch. We've got a few other things that we're going to hit on today, but the primary focus will be on the Flows tool. We'll talk about what's next in the roadmap, spend some time in Q&A, and we'll of course get the recording out to everybody, whether you've attended or just registered. So at a high level, this release is currently planned to be pushed live on Tuesday night, the 25th, next Tuesday. And as we're mentioning, there's going to be a new campaign type called campaign flows that we're reviewing. There also will be some significant updates to the transaction analysis report. And we're going to review the new API docs and SDKs that are be bundled into this as well as there's a few bug fixes and small tweaks and improvements that will be made in the release. So jumping into Postalytics Flows. Flows is a new thing. It is something that, at least to what we're aware of, there's never been anything like this built for direct mail. It's essentially a full workflow automation tool that is designed to manage direct mail campaigns, multi-touch direct mail campaigns. And it is sort of a container, if you think of it as a way for you to put multiple touches in with a bunch of logic. And so that's what we're going to review today. It works very much like other workflow automation tools you might see in CRMs and marketing automation tools like HubSpot and Salesforce. But the general idea is that you spend time kind of configuring this logic inside of a flow. And then once you've invested that time, the software will drive the way that contacts move through a flow or flow through a flow. And so you can, in our parlance, set it and forget it. Once the work is done up front, there's very, very little extra work involved in managing all of these touches. And so it's super powerful. I think everybody's aware of what has happened with email marketing with the advent of an automation tool like this. This is something that will be similar for direct mail touches. And so you don't have to track and manage multi-touch direct mail campaigns using spreadsheets. That's the big deal here. So why are we doing this? Because it's really hard. It takes a lot of resources to manage multi-touch direct mail campaigns. Folks end up using spreadsheets that look like this for their project management. And so you've got these a lot of information you're trying to track and manage and plan and time so that the touches are arriving when you want them to arrive. And it involves a significant overhead of human cost, of tracking in offline systems like spreadsheets, which is what Postalytics is kind of designed to try to eliminate as much of that as possible. And so this is building on our kind of core promise. The management of suppression. If you think about what happens in a multi-touch campaign, people need to drop out for various reasons. There's all sorts of time and management associated with the suppression of folks in a multi-touch campaign. And at the end of the day, it's really hard to scale your marketing operation if you're spending all of your time doing all this manual work. And so Flows is designed to address these very important pain points. So there are 5 steps to publish a flow, and you can see that I've already gotten to the last one, which is publish. But it's a fairly simple process. The flow is, as I mentioned, it's kind of a container or a shell. And so you have to set that up first, right? So you set up a flow campaign. There's a quick, simple little wizard that'll walk you through kind of configuring that flow. And then you set up the individual Postalytics campaigns or touches that you will be using to send mail inside of that container, inside of that flow. So you set up those individual touches. And then you use something new that we've built here that you're taking a look at on the screen called the builder to configure the flow, right? What's the logic? What are the steps that are going to take place here? And then finally, there's an enrollment tab where you configure the enrollment and unenrollment settings. What's going to happen? How do we bring people in? And when do we pull people out? And so those things are configured in the enrollment tab, and then you publish. And from there, it just runs. So this is a new campaign option. Okay, this is something that hasn't existed before, and so you'll be able to access it from the campaigns menu. You'll choose the type of flow, and there are 2 basic types. One is an automated file, and the other is a triggered drip. An automated file flow will work off of a data file that you upload or purchase through Postalytics. And then the contacts in that data file will flow through the campaign flow. A trigger drip campaign is something that is integrated with your CRM or your marketing automation tool or another tech tool. And so a trigger drip will come in one by one from another system, right? So that's all part of the basic setup. It's one or the other. And each of the touches inside of the flow have to be similar, right? They have to be the same type. You can't mix an automated file with a trigger drip flow. So just sort of the kind of the core setup info there. And then from there, you got the ability to configure your flow so that it will have automated execution of planned direct mail campaigns or touch points. And the idea, again, set it and forget it. You set the thing up, you set up the logic and the branching, and then it just runs. So it's automated execution. There are 10 different what we call actions that you can use to configure the logic that will help you define flows that can really drill and personalize and target the specific information you want to get to a contact at a very specific point in time. And so these 10 flows, these 10 actions, we're going to walk through a little bit. We have an ability to set up the goal and suppression list management so that it is automatically occurring as the campaign is going along, as people are working through the flow. If they hit certain criteria, certain actions happen, certain events happen, they can be pulled out of the campaign. They can be configured to say, hey, we've hit a goal, and the goals can be measured, right? So all of that is managed and tracked for you. And then we've got some very detailed reporting and logging that you can get into to see exactly what's happened. And then
For a second,
finally, oh, go ahead,
this is
Don.
all done on the individual contact level. So if you're sending in a list of 500, 5,000, 50,000, we're doing each one of these actions and logical steps on each individual contact to make sure they all get a personalized experience through this flow or your multi-touch campaign.
Exactly. So it's different in that way. It's even though a list may come in, you may have a file with 10,000 names in it or something. Each of the contacts in that list are running through this individually. The other key point here, if for those customers that are using our APIs or our webhook capabilities, so you've got the ability to really integrate flows with other tools that you're using. So that's both data coming in and data coming out. You can manage the flow itself. You can manage the enrollment and unenrollment through API endpoints, as well as we have webhooks in and out as well. So lots of flexibility in how you deploy this if you're going to be using third-party tools to drive part of this. So when we talk about automated execution, we're again discussing this idea that there's this container with a bunch of logic, and you create the touch points, the individual Postalytics campaigns that will send mail. So those get configured in this logical construct where you can set up the timing to operate in a lot of different ways. You can set up these delays between the touches, right? And the delays can be configured in a couple of different ways as well. And that, again, the general idea is you set up all of this logic and then the software just handles this for you. So there's a lot less manual intervention that you need to take for multi-touch campaigns. We have 4 different tabs, 4 different areas of navigation for you within a flow. The primary thing that you'll be involved in, at least initially, when you're setting up the campaign is what we call the builder. And so the builder is where this canvas where you sort of set up all this logic and the way that the contacts will operate as they go through the flow. Then there's an enrollment tab where you are able to create the rules about how people become enrolled into the flow or unenrolled, where they hit a goal or you want to unenroll them for other reasons. The performance tab is tracking the data, the real-time data about what's happening inside of the flow across all the different touches. And then the history tab is really where the detailed logging is happening about every single step and how every single contact is operating through the flow. So in the builder, we'll drill in here a little bit. You've got an ability to set up an unlimited number of actions. And the actions are all of these things you see on the right here, those 10 different things that you can configure, the logical events. And so a real common type of flow is what we call a straight line flow, where you've got, let's say you've got 4 or 5 touches that you want to set up, and you want to have a touch go out and then a delay, either in terms of say 5 days, you want to send out the next touch, and then another delay of 14 days before the next touch. Simple straight line flows you can set up in a matter of minutes, and again, set it and forget it. There's also a little bit more advanced way to configure the delays between the touches. We call wait for an event. Don, why don't you talk a little bit about wait for an event and what that's about?
Sure. Let's have an example use case. Let's say you want to send out a quick 2-touch campaign, but you want to make sure that they're getting that second piece of mail after the first one's been literally delivered to their doorstep. You can wait for that piece of mail to have a process for delivery event before it gets to the actual second touch. Alternatively, you can go ahead and send a thank you letter if they've actually hit your website of choice that you want to go to by the Pearl opened event or a Pearl completed event. Waiting for event allows you to handle when exactly that second touch or the following touches go out after that first piece of mail is gone. So you can customize it down and even use it to filter out logic, saying if you have a rerouted event, we don't need to go ahead and move those people going forward in the actual workflow.
Right. So lots of flexibility in how you construct the timing. It can be on a fixed number of days, or it could be based on how the post office is delivering your mail. And so lots of different options there. You can also, at a step in the flow, add a contact to a list or a suppression list. So, for example, you may say, well, when somebody converts, we want to take them out of the campaign. We don't want to waste more mail on sending mail to somebody who's already bought something, right? So pull them out, add them to a suppression list when they convert. Simple idea, hard to execute in a manual format, right? So let the software do the work for you. Some more other advanced things that we are unrolling here. Super excited about this. We call splits. Split by distribution enables you to set up A/B tests or ABC tests or ABCD tests. You can have as many splits as you want. And essentially, when the contacts reach this point in the flow, the software will randomly assign them to a path and make sure that that's being done on an equally distributed basis. So over time, you can configure a lot of data in different touches. So you may want to compare one creative to another as an option. Don, what are some other use cases for this?
You want to go ahead and see which one of your creatives are, again, having the best return on your result. You can use that for A/B testing. Also allowed in the we also have the ability to have a quick dashboard view that shows you at a glance which one of your campaigns is performing the best. Splitting by distribution allows you to split the list literally without having to actually physically change each one of the people into a different list upload or send multiple different touches into our Postalytics, because we'll handle the touch sorting for you with the flows themselves.
Awesome. Excellent. Filters. You can configure filters as steps in a flow. And there are a couple of ways of doing that. You can take data that is coming from your data source and create a filter. So, for example, you could have people coming in from one state with a state field in your contact could route into one branch, and another state could route into another branch. Or you could take.
No more need. Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
can jump in here. There's no more need to pre-sort your list to make sure they're going to each individual creative directly. You can filter by any of the contact properties or any variable properties that you want to add in, and then put them out to the exact creative and the exact touch that you want to use to make them individualized and have the best result coming back out. I know some folks want, when they're doing their campaign, want to make sure that the individual card that they're actually sending out is the correct one for that age or category or marketing group of their choice.
Exactly. Exactly. The other thing you can do is filter by our delivery and response events. So you could say, all right, I want to route everybody that is processed for delivery, which means the mail is going to be delivered over here. I want to route everybody that is return to sender to a different branch, or I want to route based on whether people have hit the QR code scan and they have recorded a Perl open, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can configure these filters to really, really drill in and personalize what people get and when. And then finally, you can also send a webhook out as a step in a flow. And so again, for folks that are doing more programmatic integration with Postalytics, you can have a step in a flow in a branch say, all right, I'm going to update my CRM because this contact is a return to sender and the address is bad and it didn't get picked up by the CAS process. So the webhook can be an endpoint that you send data to be consumed by the rest of your tech stack. Moving into the enrollment tab, here's where you define your enrollment settings, including the goals. So you configure the goal criteria. You know, what is it that you want to count somebody as achieving a goal that you're recording? The unenrollment criteria, right? So when do you want to pull somebody out of a campaign? And what do you want to do with them once you do pull them out? You can also make a quick unenroll of a contact. Say, you know, you hear from somebody, they're complaining, you can just pop right in and unenroll them from the flow. Or you hear from another data source, you got to pull this contact out. Quick and easy to do. The performance tab, as we mentioned before, is a snapshot of what's happening inside your flow at kind of an aggregate level, both for the flow, entire flow itself, as well as the individual touches. And so we're tracking, you know, how many have been enrolled, how many are in progress, how many responses have you gotten in its entirety, how many goals have been hit, and then data at the individual contact or the individual campaign level, I should say.
Glance, it'll show you which one of your campaigns are performing the best, which ones are performing the worst, and give you, when you're doing A/B testing, a quick one-to-one view to see which one of your creatives or which one of your splits or touches is actually the best performance for your actual campaign needs. As well as if you've defined goals in your setting, it'll tell you which one of your individual contacts has reached those goals or conversion events that you actually want to go for. So you can see if your entire marketing strategy, how effective it is in your market, and if you need to make any changes or if you hit gold.
Exactly. And then the final tab is we call the history tab. And as we mentioned, this is a log of everything that has happened inside of the flow for every single contact. So as they're going through, each of the steps are being recorded in the history tab. And so you've got all sorts of ability to filter what you're seeing. You can also drill in and pull up the data about each specific step that's been recorded. So all sorts of history, all sorts of data here for you to be able to track and understand exactly what has happened. So how's this all going to work? Well, we're going to roll this out next week, and it will be a part of our pro and agency plans, at least initially. You know, what we're really hoping to do is find, you know, a couple of dozen early adopters and use this tool because we're viewing this as really a fundamental piece of our software moving forward that we're planning on doing a lot of other things with. So it's really something we're going to be embedding in a lot of other new features that are planned. So for example, our website retargeting feature that is going to be rolling out. You'll be able to drop somebody who hits the website and doesn't buy the pair of shoes into a flow that could then manage what mail they're getting and when they get pulled out of the flow. All that is going to be bundled together with the website retargeting. This is the tip of the iceberg. We've got a lot of other ideas. So this is really a fundamental thing. We're looking for some early adopters to work with us to help us understand how you're using it, how we can improve it, what we can do to make it this a really transformational piece of technology. We'll be publishing help docs, how-to videos to help you along. And again, we're really hoping to identify some early adopters. So if you're an existing customer, you want to try this out, contact our support team. Client success will come back to you and we'll engage and configure some flows with you. If you're not a customer yet, work with your sales person or hit us up at the sales@Postalytics email address, and we will reach back out. So some other things before we wrap. The transaction analysis has received some significant updates as well. These will be rolling out. Again, the transaction analysis is really a detailed reporting tool that we've built to help folks reconcile what have they spent, what have they sent, what is happening inside of your account. So it's a very powerful tool that has a lot of new stuff. And so we've broken out the summary in another level of detail. So when you pop into the initial screen, you'll see, a few more columns of data about what's happening inside of your Postalytics account. We've also created a new filtering system so that you can multi-select multiple filters for your analysis and have a more of a dynamic filtering process. So as you're picking filters, everything is being adjusted for you. And then finally, we're summing up the values of what's happened. So you want to figure out how much have I spent on campaigns in the first 6 weeks of the year. Quick and easy, you can get that done here. And then finally, for agencies, we've built out a sub-account view. So you can see not only here's what we've been doing as an agency, and here's what's happening at each of our client accounts. So some other things. We've got a whole new set of API docs that have been published on the website. They're now fully functional and available. Don, I know you're big into the API. Why don't you talk about that just for a sec?
API enhancements allow you to, if you're creating your own custom integration, easily make it with our new downloadable SDKs in 6 different languages of codes. So you can use the one of your choice for testing. It also allows you to get at a glance, the proper responses and the proper JSON payload that you need to actually send in and what to expect back from our users. It's a nice upgrade compared to our previous API, and I am very excited to deploy it.
That's great. And that I need Don to have some good JSON payload talk on this presentation. So thank you. Next on the print network, we are continuing to expand. The Dallas facility is now live for our major formats, postcards and letters. We're adding to the Dallas facility our kind of more lesser used formats, and so that's an ongoing process that is happening. And then we are adding new capacity in the Southeast and on the West Coast that we will be announcing in the coming months as well. And then finally, from a roadmap standpoint, we've rolled out a lot recently. We have the new audience building tool, the response center that you're able to track responses from things outside of Postalytics. We've got some enhancements that are coming out there. We're super excited about building an integration with Canva, which is a tool that a lot of folks are using for creative, where you'll be able to much more quickly and easily build creatives inside of Canva and then have them automatically appear in your Postalytics account. I mentioned the website retargeting project that has started. We are doing a similar project with Adobe that we're doing with Canva. So the Adobe InDesign and Photoshop will have that same capability of instantly dropping assets into your Postalytics asset manager, which was also recently refreshed. And then finally, matchback analysis will be enable you to match folks that have purchased or people have converted that you're tracking elsewhere with people that you have mailed to. From a format standpoint, we'll very quickly here be rolling out a prepaid business reply envelope postage option for our nonprofit customers, to be followed by a new letter format that will have a closed-faced envelope, and the letter will no longer have the address block in it if you choose to use this format. We have a buck slips feature where you can put a little slip inside of your letter with creative on it. Variable data envelopes, so personalized envelopes are going to be coming out as well. And then a couple of other formats will be coming out later in the year with a trifold self-mailer and a jumbo postcard. And so that's what we wanted to cover today. It's 1 o'clock. We can continue to hang on here and answer any questions that have come up.
Great. Couple questions here, Dennis. The first one, confirming that one contact can be enrolled by into your flow. So if it's coming from a CRM, someone becomes a new customer, it says you could have an onboarding sequence of mailers that could be followed up with.
That's right. So if folks didn't hear, you can enroll a single contact at a time. So if somebody becomes a customer, you want to set up an onboarding flow for touches that will go out when somebody becomes a customer. That can be a triggered campaign coming in from your CRM or marketing automation tool. It could be a single file that you drop with a single customer. Doesn't matter to us. You can do one contact at a time. You can do 100,000 contacts. Doesn't matter.
Excellent. And then the ability to search by one contact. So if you wanted to see how many touches were sent to a contact, maybe they became a customer.
That's a really good question. Is
That
that something available in the history, Don, or the?
Exactly available in history. You can search down in the history of your flow on the individual contact level based upon their criteria, their name, like any of their names, their company, address information, and then you can see what exactly happened to that individual contact, how many pieces of mail were sent, which path they went down, the exact route they went down the flow, and every single step that they took, and the response or the results of each individual action they had. So if you want to see if contact A received 4 pieces of mail and which campaigns they went to, that's capable, versus contact B, which only received 3 pieces of mail.
Excellent. Good. All right. What other questions? I've got Michael Gegelman. You have a question, Michael?
Yeah, actually, a statement and then a question. Congratulations, guys. This is really beautiful. Don and Dennis. So it would have been back in the 90s at my financial planning practice in Florida. And keeping in mind that I'm an avid student of Dan Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah, direct response marketing guy,
Yes.
And he's very, very in fact, Dan Kennedy, for all who are listening here, he would be a great source. And some of his books may be available on, regarding this. Sequential mailing sequences would be available on Amazon or I forget his website now. But anyway, so it was back in the 90s because I used to run as a financial advisor. I used to run half-page or full-page ads in senior magazines, senior newsletters, senior newspapers. And the ads look like typical classic direct response marketing, like a newspaper article, a catchy subject line. The target audience was senior citizens we're looking to do financial planning for. And then, 3 or 4 columns of copy looked just like a newspaper article. Call to action was to dial this toll-free 800 number to request a free report. And so what I did, that was the the trigger or the lead generation tool were these ads and senior publications. And then from there, I had engineered a direct mailing sequence that spanned like 60, 90 days. And that sequence was a combination of a free report, like copy 1, copy 2, something like that. And then in between the free report, postcards would drop. And this was augmented by then outbound phone calls, or people would call in, from that and request an appointment. And so to your point, you can't do this in a spreadsheet. Cannot do it in a spreadsheet. So what I did is I took a 90s edition CRM, which was called Goldmine, a fantastic CRM. In fact, I still use it to this day for just my personal information management stuff. Crazy, locally installed. And what I did is I there was another application called I can't remember the name of the thing, but it was a D-Base app that you could write custom code to automate a bunch of Goldmine stuff that Goldmine wouldn't automate on its own. So I wrote this D-Base app to automate and do what you guys are talking about here. And I ran it from Goldmine. And that thing was just amazing. I mean, really amazing. I mean, I had, it got to the point with this from the lead generation perspective that, and, you know, in the financial services industry, you usually have to meet with people, you know, and do your introductions and all that kind of stuff. And you go through a series of meetings. It got to the point to where I had so many leads coming in and stuff that my outbound, you know, outbound call outreach or appointment setting outreach, I even sold a case or two right over the phone based on the copy that was in the free report. Like a $500,000 case right over the phone. And then, you know, we scheduled the appointment. I met at their home and we transferred all of the assets. So this is a phenomenal tool. And, you know, I don't know in the CRM space if anything like this exists in the cloud CRM space for direct mail. It sounds like it doesn't. I have to say that you know, for me to do this in Goldmine with this D-Base tool, it took like 6 months of coding, you know. And I'm like a financial planner and I taught myself how to do this because I knew what I wanted to do. It was like Dan Kennedy, direct response, drips, you know, drip marketing, you know, mail. And what's kind of neat about this is, you know, everything's gone over to email because, you know, the same thing works on email, right? But mailboxes are kind of empty when it comes to this kind of direct response marketing. So, you know, if one does this right, it could really prove to be you know, hugely advantageous. Anybody that knows anything about, you know, drip sequence mailing, it typically takes about 7 touches to get someone to move to where you want them to be, whether that's an appointment or a sale or whatever, you know. So that's all I have to say. Huge congrats. Great work. So a question I have is this: can you guys accommodate book funnels? Like, you know, we set up a book funnel on the internet. We have somebody buy the book. Book funnels is the first question. And then if so, would you be able to accommodate a drip sequence with a book funnel?
Not 100% sure what a book funnel is, Michael. But what would be any format that Postalytics supports can be utilized within a flow. And so we talked about the format expansion earlier. That's kind of a continually growing list of things that we are supporting from a printing and mailing standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, if the touches that are going to go out for a book flow incorporate postcards and letters and self-mailers and those kind of things, then the answer is yes. If it involves publishing a book, then we're not there at this point. But yeah, like for any type of kind of typical mail volume that you would send out, these are all supported in the Flows product.
Yeah, so the book funnel, it's a common thing these days on the web. You know, you set up a squeeze page or an email, you know, a funnel, a marketing internet funnel that sells a book, and you know, it's a free book, but if you pay shipping, you know, just pay shipping and handling, and then there would be a fulfillment house that fulfills that book, okay, and then typically email sequence happens after the book is purchased. It'd be kind of neat to tie maybe direct mail into that. You know, so
I could actually see something like that working.
You know, would you guys be able to? It sounds like you wouldn't be able to fulfill the book, but we could probably hook in direct mail after the book is purchased, and we've got some kind of data record inside of like Go High Level that the book has been purchased, right?
Actually could work as well. We fully support our integrations here from your outside source. If you have any of the integrated CRMs that we support, we will be allowing you to send them directly into the flow versus actually directly into the campaign. So for example, on the high level side, you have someone buys the book, they go into your CRM triggers out a sequence that goes into our flow. And then from there, we can take it entirely along the sequence of direct mail touches after that part.
Yeah. Excellent. Very cool. Excellent. That's all I have, guys.
That's great. Thank you, Michael. First of all, that's a great point about Dan Kennedy. I had to reach out to Dan and talk to him about this.
You do.
but I think your point on that concept of tying in a book sale that hits a CRM and then that triggers a multi-touch flow. That's exactly what this is about. And so really appreciate you bringing that up.
Excellent.
Great. Well, I think that'll do it for today. If we have other questions, we will come back in writing to you. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. As I mentioned, we're looking for our first couple dozen customers to step up and work with us on this. And we hope to speak with you soon, and look for more updates coming out from Postalytics soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.